it's a little bit futuristic, an artist's view, but personally I think wearable devices for knowledge distribution are not that far away. And I'm sure they will be much smaller than here pictured. And I'm sure they will be much more advanced. But it's only a trigger. Education is changing. Education is changing very, very, very fast. Within 10 years, everything you need to know to become whatever you want will be free. Within 10 years, MIT in 2023, 6 years from now, every study on MIT will be free.
But the examination you have to take.
No. Also the
to get the degree.
At this moment. But they have looked and for people who are hiring the smart people of the world, and the companies are willing to pay them if they can get access to all graduates from MIT. So if MIT gives the education for free, maybe a small fee for the examination, then the companies can contact the most brilliant minds from everywhere over the world, and it will be a radical innovation. And within this presentation, I'm trying to introduce some innovations, not from the future, but from the past, that we can use within our PROF TRAC project and within your own trainings to become better prepared for that future. And to be more successful, because when education is free and you are not using it and training yourself with it, it doesn't add value. So the process of learning will be the most important fact. All right, what's happening already? The flipped classroom. Who knows the flipped classroom or is working with it? Now, in a flipped...
Sorry, what do you mean by flipped?
A flipped classroom, I will explain it. In a flipped classroom, normally you go to the classroom, you get a lecture, and after the lecture, the time is up, and you don't have the time to process everything that's learned and to get experience yourself. Within the flipped classroom, you start with preparing, doing some tests, doing some examinations, doing some assessments, doing some exercises, and so on. Then you go to the classroom, and there you are applying what you have learned within the guidance of an experienced trainer or some coaches that are explaining the most difficult parts. For example, if all of the group doesn't understand one chapter, then he will give a lecture about that chapter, but it will be very short. Most times the group work for applying the knowledge the first time in a safe environment. That's the key of the flipped classroom setting. And then after that, you check your understanding and you do the final assessments to get your degree or something like that. To create a flipped classroom, you have to blend the learning. What is blended learning? Blended learning is a mix of all learning content, and all learning means that you have available. And in a blended solution, it is a learning intervention that combines all those methods and media into a mixture. So you are combining webinars with lectures, with exercises, with assignments, with assessment, and so on. And when looking to the blend, most of the people like it. because it's more attractive than listening to a highly educated and highly skilled professor for half a day or something like that. Does it work? 82% think yes. And they want to increase that kind of learning. 14% of the market players, so we don't have in this room it's not 14%, but only 14% is not blending at this moment. So nearly all training providers are creating blends in some form. What do we expect? A huge increase in mobile. Why do something after your laptop or after a big screen if you can also do it just in time, just in place on your mobile phone? So I think the mobile phone will be very 56% says learning will be mobile. I think it will be more than 90%, because on your mobile phone you can get reminders, you can get very short exercises to get the learning content continually on your screen when you need it. And personally, I am doing some nice projects, also financed by the European Commission, that is connecting the building information model with the learning content, so that when you are on the building site, then you get the right information on your smartphone to check if you understand what you are going to do. And if you have done a task, then you can check out that task on your smartphone and prove that you were able to do that task successfully. Some experiments are going on. That's also a blend. So blending, keep it in mind when designing your training. Most of the people are blending now classroom with e-learning. So you do the theoretical parts beforehand and the practical parts in the classroom. But it will grow with coaching, with social learning, with webinars and on-the-job training. Personally, I think on-the-job training is the future. All right, that's on the blend. Why blending? Now, here is an explanation, and I find it a very good one from the educational technology point of view. You have to have a foundation of knowledge and skills. It can be applied, for example, by e-learning. But knowing a lot doesn't mean anything. If you know a lot, you can perform very bad. So you need to have some extra, for example, webinars of an expert from the field or an instructor-led training in the classroom to check if that what you know, if you can apply it correctly. Role-playing, mentorship, on-the-job performance coaching. So when blending, you can not only do the basis of learning, but you can create a learning relationship. And a learning relationship means a much higher performance on your learning investments. And when you translate it to how your brains are working, then we knew that 10% of what we read, we remember after 2 weeks. 20% of what we hear, we remember after 2 weeks. 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we say. So I will not forget this presentation for a long time. It's the third time and it's still here. And 90% of what we say and do. So when designing a training program, informing the people is just a starter. You have to keep in mind the other steps, And by blending, you can choose the right mean for each step to create a rich and a continuing training experience. And here are some examples of the means you have to reach that goal. And here is the learning pyramid in another way. A lecture. So what we have done this morning is the most inefficient way of teaching. So it's only a starter. You will start reading, you will do tomorrow, I think in the afternoon you will be able to teach others about your own training programs. And then you will be able to reproduce them in your country. Then Kolb, it's an educational scientist, has created some proof about how it works. Because people have learning styles. Some people like to do theoretical learning, some like to do practical learning, some people do like to think about learning, and so different learning styles. But when it comes to success, all the learning styles needs to be addressed by the same person. So if I want to train, for example, you successful, I have to train the theory. You have to do it yourself in a safe environment. Then you have to do it yourself in your own country. And as the last step, you have to be able to reflect on your performance and to look back to the theory. Was I successful or not? Or can I optimize my training? So learning is a continual cycle of theory, exercise, do it in the real world and reflect on it and create the next learning step. And in this time of free available knowledge, the knowledge doesn't matter anymore. It's about the skills. And especially for skills, you need the whole cycle. If you want to be competent, you have to do these things not one time, but 10 times or 30 times. When it comes to the learner, and we now have a learning group, and I see nearly everybody has attention for what I'm presenting. So I assume that you want to learn, you have some learning questions. In educational terms, you have some pains. And you also have some trust in me as a lecturer that I will tell you something that's worth knowing. But when you got a group of other professionals or craftsmen, sometimes they don't have pain. They are simply sent by their boss, so go to the training, and I assume that you will learn there something, and I'm paying for it, so you have to be there. Then they don't have pain. Then you have to start in another way than presenting your slides or something like that. You have to confront them. You have to look, what are their problems? What do they want to know? Sometimes you have a group with people that are questioning. Why? Are you sure that? I don't know it. I have 10 years of experience and I have never done it. So, then there is pain, but they don't trust you yet. And you have to build on trust. And one of the most powerful things to create trust is to reflect on situations, to ask them for their experience, to discuss a little bit about their experience. And after that, you will gain trust, and then you can start with the knowledge. On knowledge, you can build understanding, and then you can create the first successful experience to be able to do it themselves. And when is a training successful? Only if the learner is able to do it themselves when you are not available. That's the only criterion for success of a training.
I cannot understand the tendency of the curve to go through the...
In the Netherlands it's a joke. This is like going to the playing garden. When you are both on the slide, you have to go down the slide before you can go up to the stairs. So it's a little joke, and there is no other meaning in it. But it works because if you are confronting people, the next step will be discussion. Absolutely. And you need to reflect on that before you can introduce, because if people are still in the discussion mode, they are not able to learn from you. They want to discuss with you. They want to have a battle. Webinars. I will keep that very short. It's only for your inspiration. Personally, I think with smartphones, with the modern technologies, webinars are a very smart way to do a lecture once and to send it out multiple times. You have different kinds of webinars. You have the webinars with a talking head. You have the webinars with discussion. And personally, I like the most the webinars with moderated discussions, so that each viewer can send their questions, and then a live redaction is going on and ask that questions to the experts to get the right answers. Massive online courses. Who is following one or more massive online courses? Two already. A year ago there was nobody, so it's going up. I think within 3 or 4 years, not 2 people will put up their hands, but more than half of the people will put up their hands. For example, the University of Delft in the Netherlands has more than 100,000 people that are doing their massive online course on solar panels. And it's fantastic to see how it works, because you are free to explore. And if you want to do the examination, you can pay, and you do the examination and get a nice certificate from the best of the best of the best in the field, and not from some tutor that has heard some bell ringing and is. And there are many platforms for it, so I invite you to look on the internet and to do some courses yourself. For sustaining the built environment, the number of courses is relatively low, but it's growing rapidly. For example, TU Delft also has an educational massive online courses from Anke van Hal, and that's fully focused on sustaining the built environment with NZEB buildings. Some examples: the circular economy, the course from Anke van Hal, energy-friendly renovation processes. Next, augmented reality. At this moment, it's at the innovation stage. So I don't expect that to happen within next year, but things can go very fast. For example, when you are maintaining an installation, you see the components and you get component-based instructions on how to operate the component, what temperatures are expected, what values are expected, etc. It can be used to learn, to check, and to maintain. For another example of an app that is developed in the Netherlands for people that are doing this job. Component information, how does it work, how do you maintain it or repair it. Mobile learning, this is a screen or a message from the Build Up Skills Advisor app. We are now implementing in the Netherlands. You saw some screens on. Every craftsman has a smartphone in the Netherlands. And not an old one, but a recent one. They have the most modern smartphones that are available. And they exactly knew how it works, so why not use it? An example I like myself is Duolingo, and it's based on the retention, because computers are not smart. They have a very huge storage capacity, so they knew exactly for each word how long it was ago that I saw it. They knew exactly my progress on grammar. They knew exactly my learning profile. And I think the next step in learning will be learner profiling, so that computers can advise me what to do next, or what to check next, or if I'm going to perform a task, they advise you, read this first before doing it, because it's your first time, maybe some assistance is needed. And when talking about this kind of things, learner profiles, IBM Watson is already working on a learning profile for specialists, and the IBM Watson is now performing better than all specialists on cancer treatments at this moment, because he has such a large storage capacity and very intelligent algorithms. It's going very fast. The computer will be your personal assistant also in learning. For example, my word list, exactly the progress, how strong I am, and if I want to exercise or to see my own profile, I can see it in detail. And personally, why did I do German? It's an experiment, because at high school I was absolutely very, very, very bad in German. I got a 4 or a 5 or something like that. I hated it. I've done Duolingo, I've completed all lessons, and now I am using the correct grammar, but I don't know how it works. I'm simply using the correct grammar. And I'm very happy with it, because it works. I don't know if it's correct, but it has to work. So learning analytics will be the next step, and based on learning data, everything that you are doing in the learning environment can be registered. You can get personal assistance. It's far too far for PROF TRAC, but when talking about massive online courses, when they have done a massive online courses with 100,000 students, they knew exactly what to change in a video or in an exercise or to be more performance, to get more performance. I hope you are still connected, and I'm looking forward to explore the skies of learning in the future with you. Thank you.